Alrighty, we're going to get started. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good late morning, depending on where you're joining from. And welcome to today's Certified Welcoming Informational webinar. It's focused on the 2026 Foundation Cohort. Next slide, please. My name is Maria Miskajan, and I am a Senior Manager for Welcoming America's flagship program, Certified Welcoming. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. So the session is being recorded, and in the next few days, you will receive the link to the full recording. In an effort to provide a secure and welcoming environment, all AI recording bots will be removed. If you need any technical help related to the Zoom platform, please use the chat box and use the Q&A feature. You'll see at the bottom it says Q&A to enter your content questions. We will have a dedicated time for questions towards the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Welcoming America is a national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that leads a movement of inclusive communities becoming more prosperous by ensuring everyone belongs. Before we jump into the core of our presentation today, I'd love to spend a few moments covering Welcoming America's Welcoming Network. As I do this, I'd like to just recognize that there are lots of members on the call, but since we also have some folks that aren't members, I'd like to just share this information so everyone has the same understanding of the benefits of being a member. So the Welcoming Network is comprised of about 300 local nonprofit organizations and local governments. And our network provides support locally, nationally, and internationally. We build on the really great work happening in local communities by providing tested methods and approaches to creating inclusive and welcoming places, including for immigrants. Next slide, please. So becoming a Welcoming Network member comes with many benefits. And so these include one-on-one support tailored to your community's needs and priorities, learning and development opportunities such as member-only webinars and communities of practice, priority access to scholarships for membership dues and to support participation in other programmatic offerings, as well as discounts to Welcoming America's conference known as the Welcoming Interactive. And in addition, I also want to note that Welcoming Network members receive discounts on certified welcoming fees, including fees fully waived for 1-star designations and a 30% discount on 2- to 5-star designations. Next slide, please. And Welcoming America maintains a robust schedule of curriculum-based programs, communities of practice, and webinars. These programs include areas of focus such as bridge building, strategies, rural collaboration, activating local leaders, community planning for immigrant inclusion, and much more. And I also want to note that we often also offer opportunities for members to receive direct coaching again on content areas, very specific topics such as language access, which can also assist localities with seeking certification. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked a little bit about the Welcoming Network and just as reminders, I want to talk about the core of our presentation today and just note a few objectives for our information session. So we hope by the end of this session, you will become familiarized with the certified welcoming process or refamiliarized if you already are. You'll also get a chance to learn more about the benefits and opportunities of being certified welcoming. You can learn about the support, peer learning opportunities, and resources available to you through the cohort. Understand the eligibility criteria, application process, and expectations, as well as just having the key information needed to decide whether you're ready to apply for the 2026 Foundation Cohort. Next slide, please. And as we get into discussing certified welcoming more and the cohort, I'd just like to share who's on the certified welcoming team. So our team consists of Melissa Bertolo, Senior Director, and we have 2 senior managers. That's myself as well as Besa Bouchard-Klein. I manage the cohorts and am the main point of contact for localities undergoing certification, while Besa oversees more on the back end, data and compliance. Both of us relatively recently joined, and we look forward to the opportunity and potential of working with you and meeting you if we have not already. So now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa Bertolo, who will kick us off with some further introductory information about certified welcoming. Over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Mariam, and you can go on to the next slide, Anthony. Um, as we get started to talk about the cohort and all of the program details, also wanted to provide you with just some background information on Certified Welcoming. As Martia mentioned at the beginning, we gave the intro to the organization and network, recognizing that there are many members on this call, but also some folks who are not members. And similarly, we have some folks who have gone through Certified Welcoming and are getting ready for their recertification, as well as those who have not participated in the program yet. And so we want to make sure that everybody has the same information. And so if you're already, a veteran in the program, please just bear with us as we go through some of this information that might already be familiar to you. So you can go to the next slide. And so I just want to share first, what is Certified Welcoming? So this is a designation for local governments. It is not possible to earn the designation without the support and the work and partnership of community-based organizations, but it is the local government, so a city, a county, a town, a village, that must apply and who receives the designation. And in order to receive it, they have to meet the criteria and the welcoming standard through policies and programs that reflect their values and commitment to immigrant inclusion. And so there's a formal assessment process, and communities that earn this designation then must go through the recertification every 4 years in order to maintain the designation. And you can learn more at our website, certifiedwelcoming.org. You can go to the next slide. So I want to quickly introduce the welcoming standard. The welcoming standard is really the backbone to Certified Welcoming. So it uses a holistic approach to think about immigrant inclusion in a community. So there are 7 framework areas, and there are different criteria in each one to demonstrate welcoming and immigrant inclusion to ensure that everyone truly belongs. And the welcoming standard is also able to be used separately from Certified Welcoming. So while it is the tool that we use to benchmark localities with the certification, you're welcome to pick it up and look at it and use it as a guide and a roadmap for your work within your community as well. Can you to the next slide? So Certified Welcoming is built to really ensure that there's an opportunity for both assessment as well as continuous improvement. And so some of the folks who have been certified previously may have not received a STAR designation because we did update the standard and update the certification process to now demonstrate these 5 different stars that can be achieved in order to really ensure that there is a clear path and opportunity to demonstrate that continuous improvement. And we all know that certification in this immigrant inclusion work is not a check mark. And so even at 5 stars, there's still opportunity for advancement and continued growth. And as Mariam will share in a little bit, the cohort is for folks seeking a 1 to 3 star designation. One thing to note for this is that criteria are cumulative. So if you want to receive that 3-star designation, that means that you have to meet all of the criteria in the 1 and the 2 and the 3 star as well. You can go on to the next slide. So the process for certification is quite rigorous, and that's really why we designed the cohort program, to provide more opportunity for technical assistance and support throughout the entire process. Typically takes places a year to 18 months to finish the certification process through the cohort program. So the first step is to complete the self-assessment. So this is really thinking about all of those criteria that you're being assessed for, and then providing evidence, working with stakeholders to gather that evidence and submit it to the Certified Welcoming team, where we then go into a desktop review and analysis. So there's a preliminary analysis of compliance, and before we then go out on an audit. So the audit maybe sounds like a scary word, right? But really it's a site visit where we have a series of interviews with community members, stakeholders, government employees, and a process to both verify information that was provided in that self-assessment, as well as to gather additional context, evidence, and to really understand some nuance about the community that simply can't be picked up through the written material. After you have your audit completed, we compile all of our findings into the certification report. The certification report is not a pass-fail though. And so if you're finding that there's, perhaps some additional evidence that might be needed in order to achieve that STAR designation that you're seeking, you have an opportunity for an additional 6 months to then submit that additional evidence. So at that point, this is where it really becomes that, 1 year to 18-month mark, because if you're fully compliant at the 1 year mark when you finish your audit, then you would receive your designation and your certificate and announcement. Whereas if you need to submit that additional evidence in order to achieve the designation, it could be up to that 18-month time period. And when we send you your certificate, our communications team provides a lot of support with the announcement. And I think that's just important to note, particularly in the times that we are right now, where we're, being particularly balanced or cautious, or wanting to make sure that our communications is not going to inflict any harm in our community, or perhaps cause any type of target on our back. So our communications team is amazing, and will provide some additional tailored support for you throughout that process. And you can go to the next slide. And so just want to conclude here then with why get certified, right? Like, what are the benefits of this? Why should you seek certification? So, a lot of different reasons for many people throughout the localities that have already achieved the designation or are going through the process. But one reason is to really ensure that this work is institutionalized and the local government is held accountable. I think particularly, under the current environment that we're in, we want to make sure that there are true measurements and assessments to ensure that, that this work is going to continue to happen. And so this is an opportunity to really hold the local government to its standard, to its values, and to make sure that this work is continuing. We have also seen, local governments really be activated by their certification reports. Because that really provides, this whole entire process really provides this opportunity to identify gaps and areas for deeper investments. And so whether it be, language access, community planning, or trying to unsilo and find some additional cross-sector collaboration, the assessment itself is really, really valuable. It's also worth noting that the designation itself can be motivating for some. And so, raising the profile essentially of your locality to demonstrate that this is a reason to be in your community, to invest in your community, to live, work, and play in your community. And so, certainly that as well. And so I'm going to now turn it over. So those are some of the reasons to get certified. And I'm now going to turn it over to Mariam to talk a little bit more about the Foundation Cohort program details. If you can go on to the next slide.
Thank you, Melissa. So as Melissa mentioned, the certified welcoming process is quite rigorous, and it's the goal of the cohort model to provide assistance to certified welcoming program participants throughout every step of the process. And I'm going to be sharing more information now on what that support looks like. And again, just as a reminder, the 2026 Foundation Cohort, again, our most upcoming cohort, will primarily be centered on supporting localities seeking 1, 2, or 3-star designations. So in this slide that you see on the screen now, I'm going to discuss some examples of what type of support the cohort will provide you with. So one of these is monthly calls with topics aimed at providing technical assistance and peer learning. They're again designed to pace you through the certification process. And in a few moments, you'll also see a timeline on what those meeting structures look like. The cohort will also offer how-to guides, resources, and other project management tools and support. And these resources would also be made readily available to you when you join the cohort. Participants will also receive assistance from dedicated Welcoming America staff to provide, again, project management and coaching support. So not only through the monthly meetings, but as well as one-on-one additional office hour appointments that we provide. And through the cohort, participants will also get a chance to hear best practices and tips from other localities who have undergone certification. So in addition to hearing from one another, folks within the cohort that are going through that process, we also invite guest speakers. And this is an opportunity to learn from those folks' experiences, whether it is in participating and preparing for an audit or being able to successfully complete a self-assessment, what the announcement experience was like for them and whatnot. In addition, through the cohort, you would also be receiving public relations and marketing assistance for Welcoming America certification announcement. And then just to note that just through this overall engagement, both through the cohort and the broader process, you really have that opportunity to accelerate your community's immigrant inclusion and welcoming work. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk you through the timeline of what the cohort would look like. So after applications close on October 23, a member of the Certified Welcoming team will be in touch by November 3 to notify each applicant on the decision, and those accepted and joining the program will also receive next steps. So these next steps would essentially be primarily administrative, so a contract for you to review and sign, any invoice, as well as receiving access to Certified Welcoming onboarding folder resources. And then another immediate step would be scheduling an intake interview, which would take place in January. And an intake interview is essentially a one-on-one individual meeting between the local government and a member of our staff, where we will be discussing the landscape, community, and demographics, and just overall getting additional context in advance of our research and analysis throughout the process. So the first cohort call will also begin in January, and that's also why we're calling this the 2026 Foundation Cohort. We will get to know one another. In addition, we'll be discussing creating your certification team. As we've talked about, certification is a big undertaking to take on, and local governments would not be able to do the full work or achieve certification without community partners. So in this meeting, we will be covering ways to identify leaders, and do that stakeholder mapping and community mapping, being able to delegate tasks, as well as identifying key resources. And in February, we will be holding a Welcoming Standard Bootcamp, which will be a deep dive into the Welcoming Standard criteria by criteria with all 7 frameworks. And then in March, we have one meeting at the beginning of the month focused on engaging stakeholders and evidence collection, and a separate meeting at the end on validating evidence. This first call is focused on beginning the process of reaching out to community partners and others to collect the evidence required. And then the second call would be around ensuring that the evidence that is being collected meets the intent of the standard and criteria, and also opportunity to clarify and confirm information and identify more if needed. And in these meetings, we would also be discussing the Certified Welcoming Portal, which is essentially the portal which you would be submitting your self-assessment. And then in May and April, we will be holding, next slide please, we would be holding drop-in office hours. There will be no formal meetings, with expectation that folks would be busy working on their self-assessment. And we do plan for the self-assessment deadline to be June 30th. And as we're also towards the end of June, with self-assessments already in their final step, we'll also be having a meeting around preparing for your audit, which would be the next step following the certification self-assessment. And then following in July, we plan to hold preliminary audit meetings, which will be one-on-one time with Welcoming America as you prepare for your audit, and then with audits later planned in August and early September. And as mentioned earlier in the presentation by Melissa, audits are that time that we look into identifying outstanding questions that we may have that could potentially get answered through that process, and also understanding nuance and context of your work in a way that we wouldn't necessarily or entirely through a written self-assessment. After the audits, the Certified Welcoming team would be really actively working on preparing your certification report, which is typically provided 8 weeks after the audit. And just noting here that we'll also schedule one-on-one calls to debrief the report as well. In October, we're almost there. In October, we will be sharing information regarding the certification report. And so we would be getting some guidance and resources and ideas from particularly Welcoming America's communications team if you choose to make an announcement. And then finally, in November, the cohort will have its final meeting where participants will reflect on their certified welcoming journey and strategies for sustaining and growing their welcoming infrastructure. And this includes commitments beyond certification. And I just want to recognize that I know it's a lot of information. And again, the slide deck will be provided to you as well as the recording. And we do have an informational document for the 2026 Foundation Cohort, which includes these timelines. And if it's not dropped in the chat, it will be in a moment where you can also see all these timelines and details further. So if we can go to the next slide. So you've heard about the certification process, you heard about the program details, and in our final section, I'll just quickly talk around the application and eligibility criteria, how to apply, and next steps. Next slide, please. So first, just want to talk around the eligibility criteria and who can apply for the cohort. As Melissa mentioned earlier, while welcoming work and the certification process itself cannot happen without the support of community partners, still the lead applicant itself for certified welcoming must be the local government. So it's like a county, city, town government, etc. Applicant must also be seeking a 1, 2, or 3-star designation. However, case-by-case exceptions would also be made to seek a 4 or 5-star designation for localities that are undergoing recertification. So these are folks that are already certified welcoming localities that are seeking that recertification. And if you need assistance determining which designation is right for you, I also want to mention that we do have a little quiz that you can take. It's also on the application form, but we'll also share in the chat where you can receive a recommendation. Also want to note, we also expect for at least one staff member be committed from the local government to participate in the cohort. We anticipate staff should plan to spend approximately 5 hours each month on certification and an additional 1 to 2 hours each month for the cohort calls. So as you're thinking around who would take on this is the expected time commitment. Next slide, please. As we're thinking around administratively and program fees, want to note there is no cost to participate in the foundation cohort itself. However, localities must pay the certified welcoming fees, which is $12,000, and they would be invoiced at the beginning of the program. We do have discounts for welcoming network members. So fees are fully waived for members seeking the 1-star designation and a 30% discount for members seeking 2 to 5-star designation. And I also, again, want to recognize there might be folks who aren't members that are interested in certified welcoming. And if you're also interested in the welcoming network, you can indicate that interest in the official foundation cohort application form. There is a section for you that you can fill out. Next slide, please. So to apply, pretty easy. You just follow the link and complete the form. And we will be dropping the form link in the chat as well. And the deadline to apply is October 23rd, 2025. Next slide, please. So you're probably wondering, okay, once I submit my application, what can I expect in terms of next steps? So as mentioned, when we discussed the timeline, applicants will be notified by November 3rd on whether or not they have been accepted into the program. And those that are accepted, some of the more immediate steps would be a contract, so they would get a chance to review it, and then we'll be able to sign it via our platform DocuSign, and we'll also receive any invoice. Program participants would also be receiving access to an onboarding folder, which will include certified welcoming resources. And again, also one immediate step would be scheduling your intake interview, which would be taking place in January. And then the first meeting would be in January again, and we're just really excited to get that going. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So I know, again, it's a lot of information. We covered about the process, we covered around the cohort details, and just now around the application. If you're thinking about what's next for you, if you're interested in certified welcoming, but aren't sure which STAR designation is right, particularly for your local government, you can take that pre-assessment quiz. If you're already ready to apply, feel free to go ahead and apply. And then if you're still unsure, if you still have some questions, if there's something more specific to your local context that you want to talk around, we are more than happy to meet with you one-on-one, and we'll also be sharing the link to our one-on-one office hours where you could meet with a member of the Certified Welcoming team. And then lastly, if you're not ready to apply for the 2026 Foundation Cohort, but want to stay in the loop for the 2027 Leadership Cohort, covering 3, 4, and 5-star designations, or a more future foundation cohort, you're welcome to fill out an interest form, and we would be in touch with you when applications for those cohorts open. Righty. Next slide, please. So that concludes our more formal presentation, but Melissa and I are happy to take any questions. And I noticed, just looking at the chat, we've already received some questions, but we're happy to take them on now.
And I'll go ahead and answer a couple of them live, because we do have questions coming in through the Q&A feature and also just to us individually as hosts. And there's been some really great questions. So one of them is, of course, around the certification fees. That's always a question. So again, just to reiterate, the 1-star certification fee is waived. So the 1-star has a virtual audit that is 1 day, and so the Certified Welcoming team doesn't come out in person for those. And so there's no fee if you are a Welcoming Network member. So if you're not a member and you want to go through certification, there's a huge benefit to become a member, and we put information about that in the chat. There was another question that came in around the fees, around when is the invoice sent or when is it expected? So you would pay that in 2026. We will send you, after you're, formally enrolled in the program, we will send you your contract at the end of this year, and you would not receive your invoice until that contract is signed. And so we recognize sometimes that process can take a little while. That's why we were really trying to get it out before the end of the year. And then 2026 is when your invoice will be sent and will be due. And then there was also a question around the cadence of the certification fee. Is it spread out over those 4 years, or is it, paid up front? So it is paid up front. So it would be paid all together. So it's a 30% discount if you're going for a 2-star or more, which evens out to be $8,400. And so that would be expected to pay up front. And then there's also a question in the chat, which we'll answer live, which is, how do you learn if your community is already participating? We'll put in the chat the Welcoming Network map, which actually also has like a sorting feature for those that are certified. But that's only, it doesn't show you if you're like in the process, right? So if you want to know if your community is in the process of seeking certification, just reach out to us. We'll be happy to tell you. And also, if they're not, can give you some resources and tools to start that conversation. And if they are, and you want to, join their efforts and help them through this process, we'd be happy to connect you with our main points of contact. And then a question, around undergoing a mayoral transition in the chat. I think for the folks in New Orleans who put that in, Shakira, I would recommend scheduling some office hours, and we put that link in the chat. Some of those questions are probably a little bit more specific to your situation. And I'll just say, we did move just around the, being able to pay welcoming fees. That's really what the 1-star certification wave is for, is to be able to recognize that, sometimes your community won't have the budget, and you can still earn the designation of certified welcoming with a 1-star. And so that is our scholarship for this program, essentially. And if if anyone needs some additional assistance to think through around wanting to achieve a different star designation and needing assistance with paying some of those fees, we're happy to collaborate and help think through some additional funding opportunities that might be available. I threw a lot of questions really quickly. Any other questions?
That was really great, Melissa. Thank you for that. We're just monitoring the chat and the Q&A feature if any other questions come up.
Oh, there's another really great question around this is I'm going to read it out loud. There are concerns with the repercussions for non-compliance with the new federal mandates. And for us in Texas, the state is aligned with the federal government. Has Welcoming America modified the details of being certified so that we will be compliant? This is an excellent question. We have always really tried to maintain that anyone, no matter what state they are in, are able to be to gain the designation of certified welcoming. And so that does essentially mean that, there are some criteria that might be interpreted a little bit differently as far as compliance under the current position that we are all facing. It does not mean that places that are in Texas have an easier time to seek certification. Everyone is then held to the same standard. We have what is called welcoming standard guidance notes, where criteria are explained, where intent of the criteria is explained, and that you can really then ensure that you're collecting the correct type of evidence to demonstrate compliance. So we are not asking anyone to be out of compliance with federal or state law, and have really maintained that you can still earn this designation and still be, following those requirements that you have to.
And just one note, there was a question that I'll semi-answer here around just the support between the two different cohorts, foundation and leadership. I want to note that the general support will be the same. Of course, the cohort participants would look different. Maybe we may have some slight modifications as the time passes by, but in terms of the core support, it's very similar and not the same. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was going to say we have, the office hours link is in the chat, and so you can schedule direct time with someone from the Certified Welcoming team. And then also our email is in the chat, which is just certified@welcomingamerica.org. And we're really, eager to support you and your community to achieve this designation. Particularly in this environment that we're in right now, I think it's so incredibly important that we have local communities and local governments standing up for the values of welcoming and inclusion, and just feel, really hopeful with all of you on the call that we'll continue to see this movement grow. So thank you all for taking the time today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this webinar. As we mentioned, we will be sending out the recording over email, as well as the slide deck, as well as these many, many links that we've been sharing in the chat will also be sent to you over email. Looking forward to connecting one-on-one for those of you who've scheduled office hours or might schedule office hours. And again, the applications close October 23rd, and just excited for what's ahead. Have a great rest of your day.